In today's video, we're going to show you how to install skirting around a radiator using our skirting board covers from Skirting For You. In this demonstration, we're going to start by fitting our skirting board cover to each end of our radiator to cover our pipework. Then we will continue the run of skirting underneath the radiator to give the effect of a continuous run of skirting. So, to start, we need to know how long our skirting cover needs to be for each end of our radiator. First, use a cut-off of skirting board cover to gauge how far our skirting will sit behind our radiator. If we find that our skirting board cover doesn't clear the run of pipework, we can add an additional depth using a packer on the top edge of our skirting cover. In this instance, we've added a depth of 6mm to help clear the run of pipework. We'll need to do the same to our skirting cover later once we've made the additional cuts. Measure from the furthest point of our cutoff to where our skirting will end. We will be adding a further 100mm of length to allow the top end of our skirting to run further behind the radiator, to give the illusion that the skirting is a continuous piece. Mark our measurement with the additional length of 100mm onto our skirting board cover and then cut our skirting to size. On the flat section of our skirting, mark out 100mm. We're only cutting out the lower half of the skirting and keeping the top profile section. Using a saw, cut out our section that we just marked. We then need to cut out a section where the pipework connects to the radiator valve. To do this, mark each side of where the pipework protrudes and then measure the highest point and then transfer our measurements to the back of our skirting cover. Using some MDF blocks, place them around our markings we just made and attach them with some 2-part adhesive. This is so that we can use these as a guide for our router when we remove this section. Clamp down our skirting cover and router out our section. Knock off the MDF guides using a chisel and a hammer, and what we are left with is a clean cutout for our pipework to sit around. We will add this section of cover later to remove the gap. Now, on the other side of our skirting board cover, we need to remove the section where the cover meets the old existing skirting. Mark where the old skirting meets our skirting cover, and then measure the height of the old skirting. Transfer our measurement with our markings we made on our skirting board cover, and then cut the section out. Offer our skirting cover to make sure that everything fits correctly. Now we need to add our additional 6mm strip of primed MDF to the top edge of our skirting. Cut out the MDF strip to the same length as our skirting board cover and then mark out and remove the excess where our cutout section is. Add a bead of wood joining glue to the back end of the strip and bond the two pieces together. Then for additional support, fix into place using a nail gun. Offer our skirting board cover back into place to make sure that everything fits correctly and that the skirting is sitting flat and flush against the wall. Now we'll need to add packers along the bottom of our old skirting to help support the base of our skirting cover. Using our sample piece, place our packers behind the flat run, enough so that it will give the additional support needed and to keep our skirting cover flat, spreading them evenly apart. Make sure that we fit a packer between the gap that we removed for our pipework so that we can fix our excess piece later. Fix our packers into place to the existing skirting and then check to make sure that everything is still aligned correctly. Mark the back of our skirting board cover, the location of where our packers are sitting so that we can fix our skirting cover to them. Pilot hole our markings where our screw fixings will be placed, and then bevel our pilot holes using a bevel drill bit on the front end of our skirting so that our screw fixings will sit behind the front end of our skirting cover. Slot our skirting cover back into position and mark the top edge of our skirting so we know where to place our adhesive. Add our adhesive and slide our skirting into place. Fixing the top edge into place using a nail gun and then add our fixings to the lower section of our skirting. We have now finished a section to one side of our radiator. Repeat the same process for the other side. Now we want to remove the gap that we routed out below our radiator valve. Measure the height and width of the gap and cut out a section of skirting cover. Check that the section fits and then fit into place. We're now going to fit the last section underneath our radiator by cutting off a section from the lower half of our skirting board cover to continue the run. Measure the distance between the two skirting board covers and measure the height so that the cover will sit just behind our radiator. Use these measurements to cut out a section of the lower half of our skirting cover. Then add our packers along the old skirting so that the cover will run flush with our two skirting board covers. Mark out on the floor where our packers are located for reference so that we can add our fixing points to our cover. Pilot hole our fixing points and then bevel the front of our skirting. Add a small amount of wood joining glue to our packers for extra support. Slot our cover into position and then fix into place. If we have any pipework that protrudes underneath our skirting, like a bleed valve, simply mark out the section where our bleed valve is on our skirting cover and then cut out the section using a hole saw drill bit. Then check to see that the cover clears the bleed valve before fitting. Finally, we want to remove any holes and joins to our skirting board cover using some wood filler. Here we're using a 2-part wood filler, but we can use any pre-mixed or dry compound fillers depending on preference. Fill in the joins and fix in holes and allow the filler to set. Once set, remove any excess filler with a sander. Finally, to remove the gap between the wall and the skirting, apply a consistent bead of caulking along the top edge of our skirting. Then remove any excess by running our finger across the edge. Once complete, we have a seamless skirting that runs across our radiator that looks like a continuous piece, with all visible pipework hidden away to create a clean look. For more tutorials, tips and tricks, consider subscribing to our channel and pressing the bell icon so that you don't miss any of our latest videos. We hope this video helped and we'll see you in the next one.